Hi everyone, it's me. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I have been living here in the UK for the last 6 years. And over the last 6 years, I have learned a lot. A lot about life, a lot about me, a lot about the British people. And today I'm going to share 6 life lessons that I've learned since living in the UK. If you like this video and you want to see more videos of what it's truly like being a foreigner living in the UK, please consider subscribing. But without further ado, let's go. Number 1, we have people live differently. And it's not right or wrong. I think a big part of assimilating to British life here in the UK is doing things the way that the Brits do them. And I will say some of the different ways makes more sense than how you do it in Canada. Some of them don't. But the idea that people just live their lives differently is something that I absolutely love. And I don't think I'm ever going to get over it. At least I hope I don't, because I think it's really special. So while I live in the UK, I'm down in the southeast of England. I live like my neighbors do. I live like the English do, like the Brits do. I adapt to that way of life. However, when I go back to Canada, I live like Canadians do. So I almost have, it's like an automatic switch now. You just sort of like, you just go right back into the flow of that particular country, of that particular area. But it is something, honestly, that I love, that there's so many ways to live life that are different. And that's just really fun. I've been on YouTube long enough to know that there are already people in the comments typing away that the British way is the right way. And I very much disagree with as much politeness as I can. There are certainly things that are done better in the UK, things that I like about the UK that Canada doesn't have. It doesn't mean that one way is better or worse, one way is right or wrong. They're just different. And honestly, it's the differences that make life interesting. It makes us unique. And I personally like having those differences. Not right or wrong. Some are better, some are worse, but it's just different. Number 2 on our life lessons, something that I've learned is that the unattainable is actually within reach. So for me personally, the idea of moving abroad was something that was just completely unattainable. It was not going to happen. That is not what people do. It's not going to happen for me. I'm not capable of doing it. And yet here I am. 6 years later, I am here. I am living. I am happy and healthy, and I have done it. And so that makes you think, okay, well, what were other things that felt unattainable? And maybe perhaps I could actually do them. You know, maybe I am capable of more than I gave myself credit for. So on this channel, I like to be as blunt as humanly possible about the experience of moving abroad. And let me tell you, it is not easy. And I will never pretend that it is easy, because it is not. But it is not undoable. It's not unattainable. It is possible. And coming to that conclusion for myself has been really eye-opening. I never gave myself credit that it would be possible, that I would be able to do it, that I would be successful. And yet here I am. So it kind of gives you a moment of reflection that maybe I am capable of a lot more. And maybe there are things that I had been interested in or that I wanted to try that I just completely wrote off as like not possible. Maybe they are possible. Another thing, of course, would be adventures and naps. I started YouTube just because I needed something to do and I wanted to talk about the pros and cons, the ups and the downs for living in a new country, for being an expat, being a foreigner. And I really had no expectations that that would turn into anything, because I just really didn't think it was possible. And yet here we are, you know, years later, I am still uploading. We now have a Patreon community that helps support me through this crazy time. We have a Twitch community that is truly just absolutely wonderful. And, you know, 130,000 subscribers or something ridiculous. So yeah, I think it's just a moment to like, maybe don't be so hard on yourself. I guess I'm kind of talking to myself. Alanna, hi, how's it going? This is a bit weird, isn't it? We're talking to ourselves in front of other people. Don't be so hard on yourself, okay? You've moved abroad and you've done a pretty decent job at it. So just, believe in yourself a little bit more. Number 3 on our life lessons list, there is so much out there to discover. Now, this kind of goes without saying. Obviously, a big draw to moving abroad is that you get to discover new things, you get to try new things. But one of the things that I've learned is that it's less about the big stuff and more about the small, everyday stuff. So yes, I have been very fortunate to see castles and cathedrals and historic sites that I wouldn't normally see living in Canada, right? I'd only ever see that stuff if I was on holiday to the UK. But realistically, my life day to day is that I work a lot, so I'm not necessarily doing the touristy stuff, but in my mind, it's the small everyday stuff, trying new things, and it can be as small, honestly, as trying a new snack. Okay, if you've ever looked at my channel, I have many videos about doing taste tests, and that stuff is so much fun. Even now, later today, I'm gonna go to the shop with the whole purpose of buying treats and snacks and foods that I haven't tried before for a upcoming Patreon video. So there's so many just everyday little things that are new. Maybe you find a new show, a new British show that you've never seen before, and you absolutely love it. Maybe you try a new type of cider that you've never had before, and you're like, oh my God, this is my new favorite. There's so many wonderful things that you can explore and try and experience. Less so the big stuff. The big stuff still exists, obviously, but more about the everyday stuff. Or like the other day, I walked a new trail. The Brits usually say go for a hike. It's not a hike though, is it? It's a walk, typically. I went for a new walk and I got to see things that I hadn't seen before. And it's just appreciating that small everyday stuff that I get to experience that had I not made the leap to come over to the UK, I never would have known existed. Number 4, we have collect experiences, not possessions. So when you make the leap to move abroad, whether you go to the UK, maybe you're gonna do the opposite of me, you're gonna go to Canada. When you move abroad, you realize how little you can actually bring with you. And I think it's a really good reminder that the stuff that you accumulate is really not that important. And it's actually not necessary to survive. Even now, 6 years later of living abroad, living in England, I've certainly accumulated more stuff, but not that much. Because if I were to move someplace, if I were to go back to Canada, you realize it's really not about the stuff in your suitcase. It's more about the things that you got to experience. And again, doesn't have to be big experiences. It can be the small stuff. It's finding that new cafe, trying that new crisp that you think, I'm absolutely not gonna like knickknacks. They look disgusting, absolutely not. And then you try them and you're like, oh, this is Moorish and I'm going to eat every single one of them. I think we all know it's more about the experiences, about the people that we meet, about the friends that we make, about the things that you witness and then you get to see, and new snacks and all that kind of stuff. It's the experiences that matter most. But sometimes it's helpful to just remind yourself, because when I moved here with a big old suitcase, that really wasn't important and really wasn't necessary to survive or to be successful as an expat. It has nothing to do with that. Number 5 on our life lessons the UK taught me: walk your own path. Now, growing up, and maybe you felt something similar, or depending on your age, maybe you're feeling it right now, there's definitely a push that you should be doing things in a certain order. My experience, it was graduate high school, go to further education, whether that's college or uni, it doesn't really matter. Graduate, get a good job, a good businessy job, a real job, get married, buy a house, have a kid, and then it doesn't really matter. There's nothing really after that. That was always kind of the path that was sort of expected, not necessarily pushed, but it's certainly culturally the one that I guess would be the most common. Does that make sense? Did you guys feel that too? I think living abroad, seeing that there's different ways to live, seeing that there are so many more things out there to experience and people to meet and things to try and snacks to taste, that I've realized that walking that set out path, while it may be the right path for some people, it doesn't feel like the right path for me or the genuine progression of my life. I would like to live as I see fit. And if it looks like that original path, then that's fine, who cares? But I chose that. You know, I don't ever want to feel like I've been forced to make decisions or follow a specific path when it doesn't feel right to me. Now, if you are struggling with your own life path, first off, I get it, it's hard. Second off, not a professional, but I am giving you permission to follow your own path. Do what feels right for you. There's no set way to live life. You do not need to do it in a certain way. You don't even need to do all of the things in a different order. You can pick and choose what is right for you. And that is certainly something that I have lived abroad. It sort of forced me to reassess what I thought my life should look like or what I should be doing by certain ages. None of that really matters. It's all made up. You just do you. So yes, while I may do the big life stuff, you know, the big milestones, maybe I don't, you know, as long as it's my decision, it's the path that I choose, I've picked for myself. And a side note, I didn't add this, but it is a good point. You can change your path at any time, okay? It is not set in stone. You can do it if you are at a different age and you think, I want to do this, but normally only so-and-sos do that. You can do it too. Whether that's going back to school, whether that's changing careers, whether that's moving abroad. You don't have to do things in a certain order or at a certain age. You get to decide your own path. And for myself, I find that so exciting and so empowering that I get to decide what this life looks like. And to be honest, I don't know what it's gonna look like, but I'm having a great time. Next up, a very important life lesson that I've learned is to have an open mind. I do get a lot of messages or comments from people who are interested in moving abroad, whether it's to the UK or to someplace else. It really doesn't matter, because they ask, what is like the most important thing when moving abroad? And honestly, I will always come back to having an open mind. Like I said earlier, the Brits do things differently than Canadians, and that's okay. If you are shut off to new experiences or new ways of doing things, moving abroad is going to be absolutely painful. You have to have an open mind, go with the flow, try the new things, do the things the way the Brits do, right? Like when in Rome, go with it. Whether it feels counterintuitive or it feels silly or it feels less efficient, go with the flow, try it. You might find that, oh, actually this makes a lot of sense. And you might find, oh, actually this is kind of a silly way of doing it. But have an open mind either way. And while that is a major piece of advice I would give to any potential expat, it's also pretty helpful in life as well. Just have an open mind. Be open to new things. Go into a situation, maybe you don't know what you're doing or you don't know what to expect, but just like give it a try, because you never know. If you are someone who, how do I put this lightly? If you are someone perhaps who's very set in their ways or quite stubborn, or that you think that you may know the best way to do things and everyone else is wrong, I politely say don't move abroad, because you won't be successful. You have to really humble yourself when you move to a foreign country, because you have to let all that stuff go. You have to let your ego go. You have to let the idea that you know what's best go, because it's actually not true. Just because you're used to doing something one way does not mean it's the best way, and does not mean it is the only way. And the best way to get through that is to have an open mind. So it is a really big thing I've learned here, and it's something that I keep going back to. Even though I've been here 6 years, there are still things that I think, I don't know about this. Why do the Brits do it like this? This doesn't seem right. You got to throw that out the window and just go with the flow. Because really, it will make life so much more enjoyable. Now, typically, I have learned life lessons, at least the important ones, the hard way. To be honest, I've learned the hard way, and with that comes a lot of embarrassing moments. So if you would like to watch more content, which would be totally awesome, why not check out this one where I share my most embarrassing moments as a foreigner here in the UK. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye!